Hello, everyone, and welcome to Election Week. Not just the damage report. This is sort of a big deal, and I hope that you had a good weekend because you're about to have a bad week, possibly. It's going to be bad. The question is it like bad or is it like, oh, bad? Francesca, welcome to your bad election week. How's it going?
I slept an hour last night. I don't know why. I'm like, this is about right. This is as much sleep as anyone should get this week. We made it, John. This is what we've been working toward all year.
It is. I
We're
remember
finally here.
when it was 100 days. That feels like a minute and a half ago.
8 years ago.
I had just made my coffee, I think, when it was 100 days to go. But anyway, it's going to be here. And Francesca is going to be joining me for hour 3 of TDR tomorrow, sort of. It's going to be me, Francesca, and Ben Dixon. And I think we're going to have some fun, hopefully, before the results come in. But this is the last pre-election news show that we're doing. And whether Trump wins, like, legitimately, or Biden wins legitimately, or, you know, America does what America does and just decides to give it to the person who didn't win again, this is, like, the future is going to be so different no matter what. I almost don't want it to happen. I don't want to wait any longer, Francesca, but I just am so anxious about how it's going to go.
Yeah, I think the sooner we let go of all expectations, just, you know, put on the Frozen song, meditate, throw some tarot, but let it go. You know, like, we got to get there because there's nothing we can do other than vote, obviously, and, you know, take the streets if necessary. But this is going to be a long and bumpy ride because, of course, it is, y'all. Look at this year. Do you think that the last 2 months of the year are just going to be chill? No,
That's
not
true.
at all.
Yeah. The way, like, maybe just, hey, the people actually kind of were bothered by the last few years and we get a new president. Or maybe Francesca and I find out if that fence going up around the White House is actually unclimbable. They say it is, but maybe that's just branding, you know? Let's find out together. Anyway, okay, as much as I don't want to do the news because every story we do brings us that much closer to the election, a lot has been going on, and so we're going to transition to that. Everybody who's already watching, whether on Twitch or YouTube, thank you for joining us. Please hit the like button or whatever passes for a like button on your chosen platform. And as you send us messages and tweets and super chats and all that stuff, we'll be responding as we go. Oh, really fast, I did want to let you know, on Friday, I said that, you know, we have 2 t-shirts available for the damage report. We have the one I'm wearing right now, the damage report, and the one I'm going to be wearing tomorrow, which is Dragon Squad. And this shirt, best-selling TYT shirt all year. And I thought, shouldn't the Dragon Squad shirt be up there too? And so I asked some of you to see if you could purchase it on Friday. And what do you know? It's now number 2. For this year, blowing away all of those other stupid lame shirts that I wear on a daily basis. But anyway, thank you to everybody who has supported the channel by doing that. Every shirt you buy brings us a little bit closer to Jank knowing what Dragon Squad is. So anyway, with that, Francesca, why don't we do this thing?
Okay. Fine.
Right-wingers are big fans of cosplay. Normally, they cosplay as if they were soldiers or something. Sometimes it looks like they're cosplaying the Taliban. I'm not really sure. But this weekend, they decided to do their best rendition of Mad Max by trying to apparently run a Biden-Harris campaign bus off the road. The FBI is now investigating this, by the way. It happened on Saturday. Many of these Trump supporters in their trucks with their Trump flags and their, you know, whatever flags, were armed. And in Central Texas, they came upon this Biden-Harris bus and decided, you know what? Bus on road, good. Bus off road, better. And so they tried to make that happen. We're going to show you a little bit of video right here of the event. Okay, somebody in the Twitch chat just reminded me of one of the titles for this group was Y'all Qaeda. I like that. Anyway, so here's the thing. There you have them surrounding the bus. Turns out that when you try to sort of aggressively intimidate someone with your vehicle, it can go poorly, as a member of that train is going to realize in real time.
Running them out of Texas. It is hilarious. I'm about to run out of gas, which I'm sure some of you would love. Look at that. Oh my God.
Okay, so that was what we call an opportunity to learn. I have a feeling, though, she didn't. But anyway, I don't know if the truck, the SUV that truck ran into was another member of the convoy or some random person who was just trying to, drive somewhere. But they did crash into it, which is ironic considering that they were doing everything they could to scare people around them into thinking they were about to crash into them. So anyway, Francesca, ironically, neither Joe Biden nor Kamala were actually on that bus. But anyway, what do you think about what you just saw?
I mean, look, the Taliban did endorse Donald Trump, so very on brand. I mean, it is actually scary and enraging at the same time. I believe that the white truck that was hit was part of the Biden-Harris convoy that was in back of them. And they were clearly trying to protect them. It seemed like they were. If they weren't, then they quickly were just like, I'm protecting this bus. And that big truck was trying to get between that white car, the white SUV, and the bus itself. And I believe there were later a lot of images of that white SUV with like all the scrape marks on it, very like grease, and being run off the road kind of thing. But it's enraging because it's so dangerous and it's so aggressive, but it's also enraging because it is such a perfect metaphor for Democrats not actually fighting back. And I don't mean flip over the bus and, just, go and ape, but like, you're a giant bus. Yes, there are SUVs, but you bigger than the SUVs. You could start meandering. You could start swerving. You could get a little loosey-goosey, go back and forth. People have to recognize, who's going to get hurt? They're going to get hurt. Like, I'm just saying, like, instead it was just like, okay, well, I guess I'll slow down. Like, it is scary. I'm not saying that there was a better way, but like, at least muscle up a little bit,
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not necessarily there. I don't know who was driving that bus, and they certainly didn't sign up for, the Fury Road. But I think, with all of these celebrities coming out and supporting Biden and Harris, let's get Charlize Theron on that bus. Let's war rig up the campaign buses. I want spikes coming out of the tires. I want flamethrowers. I want guys on little swingy poles.
Yes.
Let's get some defenses in place, because they love, like, we see this and we think, oh, those are insane people who are hoping to, at the very least, terrorize people, if not actually injure or kill them. And think about if you saw this in literally any other country. If you saw some random hit on BBC of people in Pakistan doing this, what would you think about the people trying to run that bus off the road? You know what I think? The exact same thing I think here. I'm going to be consistent. But anyway, they see that. And they love it, as we're going to transition to that in just a moment. But all that we just saw there has like effectively the official approval of the Republican Party there.
Insanity. I mean, you're absolutely right. If it happened in another country, I mean, also if it happened to Republicans, if it was a Trump bus and just like 3 Priuses, just drove slightly too close to it, the entire campaign would have lost their mind, right?
Mm-hmm. I think the technical term for a group of Priuses is a vegan. But anyway, okay, so here's the thing. Do you remember how they responded when someone was rude to Sarah Huckabee Sanders in a restaurant? This is uncivil. Those lefties, they don't appreciate what America is. How could they do this? Oh, yeah, run that bus off the road. That's funny. I love that. America, that's liberty, baby. It's weird, the hypocrisy there. But anyway, we've been alluding to the fact that they approve of this, so why don't we transition right into that right now? So over the weekend, a bunch of red hats decided to get in their far larger than necessary trucks and try to run who they thought was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris off the road, potentially injuring them, potentially killing them. They didn't really care. They're effectively domestic terrorists. Donald Trump, hearing about this, is going to respond basically exactly like you'd predict.
It is something. You see the way our people, they were protecting his bus yesterday because they're nice. So his bus, they had hundreds of cars. Trump and the American flag. That's it. You see Trump and American flag. Do you ever notice when you see the other side? I don't even see much of the other side. You don't see any. They have no spirit. They have no enthusiasm. They have no nothing.
Okay, so yeah, did you see our people? They were protecting it because they're very nice. That's, let me be the millionth person to say that's how a mob boss on TV talks. That's how, an insane person talks. And that's just a random line that he throws out so that his white supremacist base will give him a little bit of applause. Yeah, they were intimidating the bus to protect it because they're very nice.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard if he does lose, if he does ever leave. We have to think about how we un-Trump the country, and that is a whole other can of worms. But I think more than that, and part of that is remembering that he has capitalized on a racism and an anger and a bigotry and a hatefulness that is already and always existed, and he has never once tried to dampen that. He has never once. I remember in 2015, lead up to the election, when I think it was a Mexican immigrant was beaten by two MAGA supporters, and they were like, yeah, that's from Donald Trump kind of thing, right? This was like one of the first recorded, and we know there were many more incidents of hate crimes. One of the first incidents of hate crimes, Trump was asked about it, and he said, well, I have very passionate followers.
Yeah,
very
I think it might have been in New York, I think. Okay. I'm not sure. Maybe New York.
Yeah, I don't know where it was, but I mean, it was like, it's just like, oh, that is who he was. That is who he still is. And if you, no matter what side of the spectrum you are on, whether you were a Trump voter, whether you're a Republican, whether you were a lefty who was like, he's not that bad, and he's just saying it, because I think a lot of people on both sides of the aisle believe that. No, he is telling you who he is. He's still that same guy. He likes it. He wants to see more of it.
Yeah, and he knows that he can say that because his base wants the same. They openly say they want our tears, but let's keep it real. They want our blood. They do. There's no line. Yeah. I know we're being hyperbolic. Oh, it's fast. You're saying it's fast. No, there's no line. He's joking about Gretchen Whitmer's attempted kidnapping. He's perfectly fine with what you just saw there, the attacks. Cesar Sayoc, did he ever admit that perhaps he needed to tone down his rhetoric? No, not at all. No. Coast Guard, a terrorist that was stopped. No, there was no reckoning for that. None for any of this. And there never will be. And you could have Don Jr. going on election day and gunning down the squad, and Kayleigh McEnany would be explaining how it's an Antifa plot on Fox and Friends the next morning. There is no line where they will admit that they have gone down a dark fascistic path. They're just not going to, because that's where power lies for them. And thankfully, nobody on that campaign bus was hurt. None of these staffers or volunteers were killed in this event. But you don't think that the next time a bus is rolling through some town, they're not going to do the exact same thing? They now think, hey, if I do that, Trump will cheer for me. He'll tweet this, for instance. He tweeted out with some kind of music over it, I love Texas, when he saw that Biden-Harris, it's a video of them being surrounded. They want, effectively Immortan Joe to wink at them out of the window of his rig. That's what they want. And they will do whatever's necessary. Hurt, kill, whoever is necessary to get that.
Yeah.
He's tweeting, by the way, really fast. He tweeted afterward, these patriots did nothing wrong. A story that he, quote, retweeted about the fact that the FBI is investigating it. Remember, they did crash one car into another. I think technically that's wrong in some way. I don't think you're supposed to do that on the highway. He says this story is false about the fact that the FBI is investigating them. I don't know what the word false means there. The FBI apparently is investigating them, but he wants you to know that he doesn't think they did anything wrong, because there's nothing wrong you can do if it demonizes the left or people you think are associated with the left. Remember, the Kenosha shooter is the victim to them. He's a hero, effectively. There's no line. There's no line. There's no line.
Yeah. And I think, and we have to, it's hard because we have to keep on telling ourselves that the false equivalents that they keep on trying to draw is completely ridiculous, and it doesn't exist. I mean, the entire equating of Antifa or BLM with any kind of white supremacy, we know that's false. And we have to constantly reiterate that because we are being gaslit perpetually. And John, I got to be honest with you. My response to being gaslit for 4 years, if and when this president ever is out of office, is to gaslight MAGA people and say he was never president. That is what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
Trump who? Oh, yeah, that guy. He ran for election. Now, of course, we have to deal with all the consequences of what Trump has wrought. I'm not saying we don't. I'm not saying like from a neoliberal perspective, I'm going to forget. From a moderate Dem perspective, I'm going to forget. But just for the MAGA folks, Trump who? Trump. Weird. Good
It's a
name.
weird name. That doesn't sound
Yeah,
real, though.
Strange name. The thing, yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. And I want to see that, but there's like a 5% chance that the Q people say after the inauguration that he was just pretending to be president for a few years to flush out the pedos. He was never actually president. What are you, a sheep? You think he was president?
And then he successfully flushed one out by leaving office.
Oh my God. Okay. So look, Trump giving the nod of approval to the people trying to run a Biden campaign bus off the road, sort of expected. If you didn't expect that, you honestly need to wake up to what America is like these days. But also right-wing media and other right-wing politicians, many of whom are going to try to present themselves when they run for president again in just a few years as being the reasonable ones.
Yeah.
They're giving it their approval too. Here's Marco Rubio.
Listen, I saw yesterday a video of these people in Texas. Did you see it? All the cars on the road with the... We love what they did, but here's the thing they don't know. We do that in Florida every day.
So I'm sure he thinks, oh, Trump is crazy, and I'm just like keeping my head down. And someday I'm going to pop up and be like, I fought against him. No, you did the exact same thing as him. And you just wanted to get, for the same reason. He's on that stage. He wants those insane white supremacists in their red hats to clap for him. And so he said what he had to do to get them to clap. And he signed on to that attack in the same way that Donald Trump did.
Oh, yeah. Marco Rubio can sit on it and rotate. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No. Marco Rubio, no, not gonna, nope, you don't get any of my emotional energy. What I will say is the following. BLM demonstrators who are rightfully protesting the murder of unarmed Black people across this country systematically have been treated to the same thing that the Biden-Harris bus was treated to in Texas. Let's not forget the amount of crazed MAGA people who have run their SUVs straight up through protests and have killed people, have injured people, have terrorized people. So who are the terrorists? And again, with the gaslighting, just let's remember that. And let's hope that if he does ever win, if this happens, if we make it through the next 3 months and Biden and Harris are president and vice president, that they don't forget who the most vulnerable, who are in the crosshairs, because they're not going to be driving a campaign bus anymore. They might be safe. Yeah. But the demonstrators and the people who are fighting fascism through peaceful protest, through organizing, through demanding their rights, those folks are still going to be victimized.
Yeah. And the people who are doing the stuff we see on tape today are still going to be out there, whether civilians or not. I mean, if we're talking about vehicular attempted terrorism, like nobody does it like cops trying to run people down at protests all throughout the country. Now, Marco Rubio. He likes what he saw. You know who likes it even more? Jeanine Pirro. Take a look.
And what's even more stunning is what was just trending, and that is there's a Biden bus, and it's surrounded by pickup trucks on a highway, all with Trump signs. I mean, it is ordinary Americans just taking this election into their own hands and getting out there and being real clear on what they stand for.
I mean, that's the most honest she's ever been. They're taking the election into their own hands and being clear what they stand for. Yeah, it's very clear. I think it's incredibly clear to everyone watching this what they stand for. They're 100% opposed to democracy because they perhaps rightly have made the calculation that the policies that they push for aren't popular. The values they hold aren't popular. And so democracy is not going to result in them gaining power, but maybe something else will. And they're pursuing that something else. And if you have to crack a few eggs along the way, they seem perfectly willing to do that. She was giddy from what she saw. Newt Gingrich, remember he was supposed to be one of the reasonable old school Republicans before Trumpism? He thinks it's awesome. He thinks it's hilarious. They all do.
Yeah. No, look, if it was discovered that Jeffrey Dahmer was MAGA, Jeanine Pirro would be like, I mean, it was amazing what he did, just a proud American, just taking acid and burning off the genitalia of the terrorists. And then he ate it like a patriot. And then I'm sure it was good because it was patriotic. You know what I mean? I am a scary soccer mom, and you do not want to get in my SUV because suddenly we're going to be running behind a Biden-Harris bus, and you just wanted to ride home.
And Mama's going out in a blaze of glory.
Jeanine Pirro has been inciting violence for as long as Jeanine Pirro has been on Fox News. And the best part about it is she reads off of like a prompter, which is fine, but like you can tell that she's reading all her like horrible incitement of violence, like, and we will drink the blood of the Antifa. Like, this is another thing, yes, Green New Deal, yes, Medicare for all. Those are going to be long roads. Also, media reform, for the love of God. Like, when do we hold Fox News accountable? How can we hold Fox News accountable? I mean, obviously we can't even get our minds around, trying to hold big tech accountable, right? But like, this is not the first time, right? Gabby Giffords. I mean, like, that is when it started. That was under McCain, when supposedly, oh yeah, he was a good Republican. Well, guess what? They were still inciting violence against Democrats. And people took it seriously and carried it out. Yeah. So again, with the false equivalencies, we know who's been targeted systematically. They've been Democrats, they've been progressives, people on the left, people organizing, grassroots people, people of color, LGBTQ people. We know who is being targeted. When is there accountability from these blowhards?
Exactly. I mean, if I had to predict, I would say never, I think. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go to a few of your comments before we launch into other news. First super chat out the gate today was from Christopher Moore, who said, I effing love the Dragon Squad. Stay safe and stay strong, in all caps. Doing a good Trump impersonation there, but thank you. Okay, Chakuseki says, saw a literal vid of a COVID conga line in a Trump event in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The death cult is dancing its way off the cliff. They're doing more and more. It's almost like some sort of dark ritual. As more and more people die, you notice they're dancing a lot more. Those things are related in some fashion. I don't know, but they are dancing a lot recently. Anyway, Carson Rodkey says, good morning, all. I would like to nominate myself for Garbage Person of the Week because starting tomorrow, I'm going to be trashed. Won't we all? Kai Allen says, happy Franmon. By the way, Halloween Common Room was amazing. We are so close to results. How do you guys feel since it's almost over, one way or another? I'm at peak anxiety. I feel good about the election. I don't feel good about everyone else who's going to weigh in on the election, but I feel pretty good about how things look electorally. What about you?
I do as well. And then I look at Poland and I look at that mass demonstration of people protesting restrictive abortion rights. And I'm like, that's beautiful. We need that. We've done it before. We did it after Trump was elected. We've done it before then and many, many times before then. And we deserve to be together with one another. We've been locked up for too long. And I say this in a non-MAGA spirit, but taking the streets for democracy is going to feel real good. I mean, people are like, what is my self-care routine? What am I going to do? And yes, meditate, breathe, eat good, try to sleep, unlike me. But also don't underestimate like how healing and important it will be to either celebrate or protest safely and non-violently, but with neighbors and friends and family and people in your community.
Yeah, I agree. Robert V says, Fauci is the head of infectious disease research and funding, not public relations. Not sure if worth him quitting. Also, Fauci works for Francis Collins, head of NIH, not Trump directly. Trump would need to fire him first. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on the show. Jess says, I'm going to be a poll worker tomorrow here in Wisconsin. Very nervous because I have a pre-existing lung condition, but proud to do what I can, although a small thing, to help our democracy survive. Thank you for all you guys do. Jess, thank you for what you do. Just take as many precautions as possible. Mask up, hand sanitizer, keep your distance. Want you to be safe. But thank you for volunteering. Gail says, I've been having a panic attack a day since Friday. Had one a little bit ago. Trump caravans in my area since Saturday. Happy election week. Love, Francesca and John. Gail, thank you. Yeah, apparently they're all over the place. Nick says, when Trump uses Air Force One when he's campaigning, who pays for it? We do. That's just there. He can do whatever he wants, I guess. It's low down on my list of issues. I get it. It's there, but they're trying to kill people. Like they're trying to kill us. Stephen Rivera said, but thank you for keeping a watch on it. Stephen Rivera says, got my Dragon Report and Dragon Squad t-shirt, gearing up for a rough rest of the year, but ready to handle it with hashtag damage report. Stephen Rivera, thank you for that. Sinners and Saints Ceramic Design says, Mondays are my fave. I can't buy myself a Dragon Squad hoodie yet, but I made myself a Dragon Squad mug, posted, tagged on my Insta for your approval. I do want to see that. Love you guys. Thanks for being there for us. Thank you. Oh, by the way, we have Instagram as well. Instagram.com/The Damage Report. You can follow that yet. I can't tell what my producer's saying. Send us the picture, maybe. Tag us. Tag me. Tag this. You could talk to me. You could just talk. We're barely a show anymore. If you want to turn on your mic, you can talk to us.
The picture I sent to you
anymore. What's that? You sent it to me?
That was the picture I sent to you of the mug. It's in your Instagram.
Thank you.
You'll see it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. How many times have I said I don't know what's going to be left of this show in a couple of months? Anyway, thank you. Finally, we're going to read one more. There's a lot more to get to, but we will get to them in time. Bernie the Kiwi Bird, which I just love, says, you are a beacon of light in these crazy times. Keeping my fingers crossed for you for the election. Can I have a shout out for my mom who died last month of breast cancer and donated her body to the medical school? Love from UK. Shout out to Bernie the Kiwi Bird's mom. That's horrible. I hope that the show makes things even just a little bit easier. And thank you for watching and supporting the show like that. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and that is really generous of her to donate her body. That is huge. That is a hard decision, but a really important one. That is like I did a whole story about that. That was. And it is really important, if you can, to donate your body. I know it's a hard choice, but sorry to hear about that. Thank you I love how everyone abroad is like, oh, we're just praying for you. And we're like, we need it. I believe in thoughts and prayers now.
I have to. Thank you to Obi-Mom Kenobi for gifting 10 tier 1 subs. Appreciate that. Emily Blackwelder for resubscribing, as well as Bobbles, who says, yee, good morning. Thank you, Bobbles. Yee. Ellinger resubscribed for 5 months and said greetings to Dragon Squad. Ellinger, as always, thank you for being a part of our community. Over on Twitch, BexHex83 says, why is the show an hour later now? I think you need to look into the daylight savings time, but with that, we will proceed with the news. In addition to the whole issue with the Biden bust down in Texas, while we've been spending the last few days in advance of the election trying to get people registered and out there to vote, seemingly everyone with a valid driver's license and an American flag has just been blocking roads in support of Trump, I guess. You got this in New Jersey. A Trump vehicle convoy shuts down the Garden State Parkway. You can see a photo there. They just blocked it for some reason, I guess. You had this tweeted out from someone saying, I hope AOC isn't using the Whitestone Bridge today. There's a lot of traffic. And I think we actually have a little bit of that video, so you can see them stopping their cars to block this bridge. I don't get what the point of that, but I did like AOC's response to that tweet that called her out saying, I took the Throg's neck, heard there was a pileup of chumps on the Whitestone. That's a good response. You show the tweet. A pileup of chumps is pretty good. I love AOC. Anyway, okay, so really fast. This seems like a weird way to campaign. I mean, in particular, blocking the streets just to show support for Trump, especially after you've been demonizing protesters if they ever block a street in opposition to police brutality. You're now blocking it so that people will have to look at your flags? That's weird. Y'all are weird. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you are behind in the polls, but you got a big truck, it's the same reason that you got a giant truck to begin with. It's not because you're a contractor or a hardworking immigrant who you hate. It's because you got a little one. And just like you're polling small. It is small, and you're overcompensating. So you're trying to do a lot with a little. I get it. And again, no disrespect to what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be like anatomically discriminatory at all, but we know what giant trucks usually indicate. And look, I want to just, for the anxiety and for the people who are rightfully worried, just remember there are more of us than there are of them. Remember what the summer looked like. Remember the amount of protests around the murder of George Floyd. There are more of us than there are of them. They're just loud and they have big trucks.
Exactly. And they really love those flags. And they really, the funniest thing is, so they said that they had a problem with protesters. Clearly they don't. They're okay with stopping traffic. They just think that you shouldn't actually have anything meaningful you're pushing for in doing so. And also they hate identity politics. What is that you're seeing there? Is that what are they protesting in support of Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, some sort of policy? No, it's just they're Trump fans. That's it. Like, look, I get that you can like a politician. Okay, obviously, big fan of Bernie Sanders, massive fan of AOC, but it's related to what they want to do. Like, I want them to get in office, to have more power so that they can do those things. This is just a white identity cult. That's all it is. Yep. And the reason I show this mainly is that, they're out there because they're looking at the polls, and they can say that they're fake all they want, but they know what it looks at least this way, the way this thing is going. But those people are still going to be Americans after this week. And do you think anyone in those convoys is going to look at the results and say, they got us this time, I guess it's the Dems' turn, we'll get them in 2024? I don't think they're going to respond in that way. And it will be way better, to get him out of office and have someone reasonable that we can push on a bunch of issues. But all of those people are still going to be out there. And whether they hold on to this love of Trump for the next 4 years, or, once he doesn't have power, maybe it wanes a bit, they're going to be looking for a replacement strongman. Yeah. And I don't know which form it's going to come. If it's going to be someone like a Tom Cotton who wants to just deploy the military everywhere around the world, or if it's, an ideological grifter like Tucker Carlson who understands how to parlay white supremacy into support amongst Republicans. But they are going to be waiting for someone else that they can wave that flag for.
Yes. And when a massive recession caused by a failure to act by the Trump administration during a global pandemic hits us, let's see who the Republicans are going to be blaming, even though they've been the ones withholding any more aid and assistance to small businesses, to unemployed people around the country, any more stimulus checks. They're going to blame Democrats. Of course they will. They'll say, this is your economy, clearly not understanding the thing that they praise and sacrifice bodies to every single day, and the way that it takes a while for the economic impact to be seen, right? Trump inheriting a booming economy after 8 years of Obama. I will say this, that I think a lot of people are turning and will turn on Trump, especially if he loses so handily. And we know it's not Fox News. Maybe it's the damage report. Are there spaces, are there places we can turn folks who are starting to be critical of maybe the haze that they were in for these 4 years? Can we handhold them? And, honestly, I don't think it's everyone's job to handhold some of these folks. I think some of them are scary and racist. That's why I believe that pretty much only white men over 6 feet can interview MAGA supporters and get away with it. Like All Gas, No Brakes, Jordan Klepper, John Iadarola, maybe.
Look, I got to give it to Emma Vigeland. She's done some of the best Trump supporter interviews ever.
That's very true.
Yeah, outside of Emma Vigeland, you're going to want to have backup.
That's absolutely true. But it's like, it is sad that they're going, I mean, it's not sad, but it's like, the reality is, I think, yes, some will hold tight to it and others will just be like, oh, what? That wasn't me. Look over there. I didn't even like him, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, they do want a winner. You know, they want it so bad that they're willing to believe that Trump is a winner in general terms, but it's going to be a little bit harder to deny when he's, hanging out in Mar-a-Lago instead of the White House. He's still going to be on Twitter. He's still going to be calling into Fox and Friends literally every day. He is not going away, but let's take away his power. That would be a nice start. Now, that said, we're going to read just a few more comments before we launch into our next topic. A little bit more on Twitch. Lori the Netoist says, my husband said he saw a Trump truck caravan in our town. I asked if they were being loud and obnoxious, and he looked at me like I asked if the sky is blue. Exactly. It's weird because they're the silent majority, aren't they? Where's the silence? I'd like a little bit more silence in my silent majority. Fairy Cat says, my TDR hoodie came on Friday. I'm wearing it now. So comfy. Glad to hear that, Fairy Cat. Day Ranger says, upset I'll be missing TDR live tomorrow and all the election coverage, but it's for a good reason. I'll be working as deputy clerk specialist for the election tomorrow here in Houston. I'll be doing my part to make sure every voter can participate in a fair and safe election. Thank you for all you do. Look forward to watching Recap Wednesday. Day Ranger, that's awesome. That is awesome. And I look forward to you counting a lot of votes in Houston that the Supreme Court will eventually throw out.
Yes.
Because they're in Houston.
John, I wanted to mention something earlier, but I don't know. And before we move on, did you see the video or I saw a photo of this, but it was in Queens where a Trump supporter with a bunch of MAGA flags, etc., had made an Antifa doll that they then strapped to the hood of their car as if it looked like they had just hit an Antifa supporter.
Oh. In Brooklyn?
I believe that was in Queens. A friend of mine from Queens sent that to me, and then I was looking at it online. I'm sure folks have seen this, or maybe they can find it, but probably the height of disgusting and really links everything we've been talking about. And that is like, oh my God, that's so cute. It's like a Halloween thing. Get it? Haha. It's like I ran over him. It's like, like what happened at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, when an actual woman was killed. This is the kind of thing that they're celebrating.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send that to me. Yeah. And look, and it's not, I hope it's not the vast majority, but again, like the best case scenario for these people is the only thing they expect to get out of politics is hurting the feelings of people like me and Francesca. But some of them are further radicalized, and lib tears will that'll keep you stimulated for a little bit, but eventually you want more. And so you start talking about how people should be able to run through protesters and things like that. The glorification of violence. But it's probably not fascism. We're probably being hyperbolic. It's probably going to be just fine. It happens in other countries, but not ours. We should treat it differently in our country than in others and pretend that it doesn't happen, no matter how dark it gets. Anyway, a few more comments. Let's read a few super chats. Let's see. Jonathan Fell says, my hedgehog has claimed my TDR hoodie. Picture was sent to you guys on Instagram. Okay, I have to see that.
Oh my God.
I want to see a hedgehog in a hoodie. It doesn't even have to be a TDR one. Just put a hedgehog in any hoodie.
I want to see a hedgehog.
Okay.
Whoa, this mug is beautiful.
I want to see the mug.
The mug is gorgeous. Sorry, I went to #TDR live, I think. Oh.
Whoa, that is very cool.
Gorgeous.
Awesome. I love it.
Gorgeous
Nice
work.
I love that, and I love that we've now reached the point on the show where I just check my Instagram in the middle of the show now. No, but it's really good work. Thank you for that. Maybe I can repost that. Okay. Let's see. I'm just gonna like be on TikTok, not even looking at the camera in a month. That's a joke. I won't be on TikTok. Anyway, Sharpie Diesel says, my Latinx neighbor socially profiled my son as someone who fits the description of a school shooter. We don't have guns, and we are a progressive. This is a result of the Trump administration. Well, keep your son safe. Thank you for the super chat.
Please, yeah.
That's dark. Seth Derby says, I'm 25 minutes behind. I worked the night shift and woke up way late. I'm watching the whole show now, though. Just can't be quite live. Can you do in 1.5 speed? We're going to sound exactly like an episode of Ben Shapiro. Anyway, a guy from chat said, maybe that's what causes it. Anyway, a guy from chat said, tuning in from Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania should be blue and good to go as long as everything is counted. Going to be at work while polls close tomorrow, so I'm going to be anxious all night. P.S. Francesca, top is fire. You're fire. You know your lighting is fire.
Thank you.
Really like the purple.
Thank you. After being dunked on by the Dragon Squad for so long, I can't be piled on by this many nerds at once. I'm just kidding. You guys know. Thank you.
Hey, insults should not be based in truth.
Hey, I want a Dragon Squad like crop top.
Okay, we'll work on that. We might have to custom it for you.
Please.
Okay. Brianna Circus, one more. Brianna Circus says, I own a glass shop in Highland. They emailed me last week about being on call all week for board ups and window repair in case of civil unrest all week. Yeah. And look, I think a lot of that is just going to be precautions that aren't needed. But we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of crazy people. Anyway. Okay, let's move on to something much lighter. The scientific research that indicates Donald Trump has killed people with COVID. Yay. A study has come out showing that the series of Trump super spreader campaign rallies that we've joked about for the past few months indeed did lead to people getting coronavirus. This is a study conducted by 4 Stanford University economic researchers. They determined that across 18 rallies, the bulk of which took place over the past summer, quote, ultimately resulted in more than 30,000 incremental confirmed cases of COVID-19 and likely led to more than 700 deaths. And this is the sort of story that on its face seems so crazy, so unthinkable, so dark that you like sort of have to knee-jerk respond by saying that can't be true. And yet, there's a lot of good reason to believe that it is true. Let's go through just a little bit of their evidence. The study examined 18 counties that hosted Trump rallies in locations such as Tulsa, Oklahoma, Phoenix, Arizona, and Winston-Salem, North Carolina, held between June 20th and September 22nd. It then compared the rate of post-rally COVID-19 infections in the host counties to that of comparable counties that did not host a rally. So they found counties that were demographically similar in a number of ways, and then they compared the two, with Trump's rallies sort of operating as natural experiments, effectively.
Oh my God.
And remember, thousands of people would show up to these. They would stampede over each other. They wouldn't wear masks. Some of them, although the minority, literally the only minority that was there, some were indoors. Most were outdoors, but they all had large amounts of people. And the authors say, for the vast majority of county matching procedures we employ, our estimate of the average treatment effect across the 18 rallies implies that they increase subsequent confirmed cases of COVID-19 by more than 250 per 100,000 residents. They extrapolated that figure to the entire sample, concluding that it had led to those thousands of new infections and likely hundreds of deaths. And look, we've been expecting this from the very beginning. We know of at least one very notable person who died as a result of it, who is a big Trump fan at one of those rallies that they looked at in Tulsa. So I guess we can't be too shocked, although, good luck on getting any of the red hats to accept any of this research, Francesca.
I just want to say that if Trump does win, I want a taxidermied Herman Cain to appear at the inauguration. I expect him to speak. I expect him to be an animatronic staple of the White House upon entry. That's just what I would like from this administration that clearly didn't care about one of its surrogates. Yeah, this is obvious. This is obvious that this was going to happen. These are super spreader events. I'm only minimally glad that it's not colder, because they would definitely have held more rallies inside had it been colder.
Yeah.
And you almost like a little bit of a thanks for holding it outside, even though people are freezing to death. But of course this was going to happen. Of course. And this is what love is, dude. Like, if you're willing to die for a politician, that's love. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a presidency. It's not, it's a cult, but it is love.
Yeah. Bernie's cool. I wouldn't let Bernie choke me to death. I wouldn't. I'll get back to you on AOC, but I'm not letting Bernie choke me to death. I'll say that. Like, I support politicians. I don't drink the cyanide flavored Kool-Aid for politicians.
You know how much Republicans want to be choked out by AOC? Oh, Republicans are like, yes. Like Ben Shapiro would like nothing more. Please choke me out. I would appreciate it like nothing more than to be choked out by AOC. I hate you so much. I'm gonna yell socialism as you choke me out. But and yes.
How dare she wear fancy clothes and look so good? How dare she? Anyway.
How much did that blazer cost?
Oh, okay.
Where's your sticking spindle? Anyway, Holy Roller said that Trump is the Johnny Appleseed of COVID. Yeah, that's the thing. And like I'm reacting with my defense mechanism, which is to sort of make a joke out of it or whatever, or what passes for a joke from me. She's making the real jokes. But think about that. 700 deaths. Maybe they're a little bit high. Maybe they're a little bit low. But think about that. 700 families, effectively, who have lost someone. And they may not even know. Some of them may suspect. Some of them may know that these people who are going to these rallies are probably being really unsafe in general. But those families have been wrecked. No family gets to lose a person to COVID and think, well, it's not so bad because we've got Trump. It becomes real for you. They weren't flown to Walter Reed. They didn't get the monkey meds. They weren't saved. Like, it is the same for them as for us. Everything else about COVID is different. They don't care about it. It's fake. It's made up until your relative dies.
Yep.
Until they waste away in a hospital and you can't go near them and then they're dead.
But
then it becomes very real.
John, think about that is such a perfect explanation for the difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, the difference between a conservative and a liberal, the difference, between progressives and extremists. It is exactly that. It's I don't have empathy or care about my fellow American, human, community, family member, really, until it hits me. I am see no evil, hear no evil, until it hits my family. Oh, yeah. Gays don't deserve the same rights as everybody else. Oh, then my daughter is gay, you know? Like, it's the same thing everywhere. Like, yeah. And that is, it's so small-minded. It's like the stupidest way to understand the world, right? And you can kind of draw parallels to things like fiscal conservatism and not wanting to pay more taxes. How small-minded and selfish are you? Don't you understand like the health of like an entire community and an entire country also impacts you? Don't you understand that when you pay taxes, that the education getting better in your community actually benefits you, right? Like, don't you understand? Or do you just want to like hunker down with your gun and keep your money and then just, shoot at anyone who comes on your property? Like, this is a world view, and you're seeing the extreme of it when it comes to COVID. You guys, 100,000 cases in a day in the U.S. on Friday. We broke our own record. We broke the one-day record that India held, like something like 98,000. We broke it on Friday. It's getting worse.
Yeah, and you really have to give it to America because India has like 4 times the population of America, and we were able to pass them. Yeah, what is that going to look like in a couple of weeks? And Trump, by the way, to your point about thank God it wasn't colder, he's not stopping those rallies. All throughout election week, he's going to be doing rallies. If there's weeks of challenges, he's going to be doing rallies. It's going to get colder and colder and colder, and then you get to make the great decision. Do you go to the indoor Trump rallies where you're even more likely to get COVID than otherwise? Or do you go to the outdoor ones where they leave you to die from hypothermia afterward? We're not even covering that. They did it a couple more times over the weekend. They just left their people to suffer and potentially die in the parking lot. You're not supposed to be able to kill your supporters and still win elections. I don't know exactly what the founders were thinking, but I'm pretty sure that if you'd asked them, they thought that killing your supporters was a disqualifier in a democracy. They must have assumed that at some point. They should have codified it. They really should have planned ahead on that one.
Are they still making people sign NDAs? Are they just signing it in like
at the rallies?
Like at the rallies, right? Like that they will not.
I don't know.
I'm sure they're just like lick here to say that you don't hold us responsible. Something like that. I don't know.
I don't want it. Okay, we're going to read just a few more comments before we launch into our talk about the way that this thing is likely to go in terms of Trump's plan on election night. The Only Allegra says, if the election results are unclear, I really hope it comes down to an official dance-off. Trump will immediately fall on his face and feign injury, and Biden will score a solid win with cool grandpa moves. I mean, here's the thing. I hate Trump's dancing. I think it's terrible. I think it's an insult. I haven't seen Biden dance, though. What does he dance like? I can sort of guess. Too close, I think, is the answer.
What if he's got, like, really good moves?
I don't.
What if he starts to floss, dude? What if he flosses? I mean, that's not a good move.
Perfect floss. No, it is. That's the best dance. All of this human thing we've been doing in terms of society was to get us to flossing. You think you can floss? Which politician do you think has the best floss? Anyway. Ghost Dog says, last 4 years have been Trump University on how Republicans can do whatever it takes for power over country. Yeah. Karen Ekstrom says, awesome. A new Dragon Squad tote bag and Fantastic Monday. All in one day. That sounds like a good day. Alembacan says, you don't see much of Biden-Harris because the Trump campaign is the best Biden campaign. LOL. Love you guys. Thank you for being my quarantine buddies. Yeah, he's really doing the campaigning for them. Also, it's a pandemic, so they're not doing as many events. Vygotsky says, Ireland is for Biden, against Brexit, and pro-peace, and all of these are related. Thank you, Vygotsky, and thank you, Ireland. Okay, let's see. Rawl Project says, prediction, silent majority vote highly for Biden, keeping him at a constant lead in the swing state. Trump's ego request counting mail-in absentee ballot causing an exponential lead for Biden. I don't know. I guess we're going to get into it in this next story. Thank you. Matt Gunnarsson says, still depressed, but it can end tomorrow. Maybe. I wouldn't necessarily count on it, but maybe. Stan Z says, too bad Biden wasn't on the bus, but I'm not mistaken. He's still under Secret Service protection. The Trump flag trucks would have really been surprised when the helicopters showed up. Ugh. That's some outbreak stuff right there. Okay, with that, let's launch into our last big story at the very least.
Let's launch.
It is. Breaking news over the weekend from Axios. Trump might try to steal this thing. I was shocked to find this out. It's a good thing I was refreshing Axios over the weekend. But anyway, look, they have sources. So good work by Jonathan Swan, I guess. President Trump has told confidants he'll declare victory on Tuesday night if it looks like he's ahead, which is very much in air quotes, according to 3 sources familiar with his private comments. That's even if the Electoral College outcome still hinges on large numbers of uncounted votes in key states like Pennsylvania. What do you mean that's even if? No, that's what it would be to circumvent, is those large numbers of uncounted votes in key states like Pennsylvania. And by the way, in addition to Axios' 3 sources familiar with his private comments, I would refer you to tens of thousands of people familiar with his public comments, because he's been saying it for months now. This is breaking news.
No.
I guess. I think the news is finally broken. But anyway, let's go to just a little bit of video of those private comments. Here's one talking about ballots in Pennsylvania. It's a doozy. Hold on to your butts.
Because it can only lead to one thing, and that's very bad. You know what that thing is. I think it's a very dangerous, terrible thing. And I think it's terrible when we can't know the results of an election the night of the election in a modern-day age of computer. I think it's a terrible thing. And I happen to think it was a terrible decision for our country made by the Supreme Court. I think it was a terrible decision for our country. And I think it's a very dangerous decision, because you're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 states, depending on how it ends up, where they're tabulating ballots, and the rest of the world is waiting to find out. And I think there's great danger to it, and I think a lot of fraud and misuse can take place. I think it's a terrible decision by the Supreme Court, a terrible decision. Now, I don't know if that's going to be changed, because we're going to go in the night of, as soon as that election's over, we're going in with our lawyers. But we don't want to have Pennsylvania, where you have a political governor, a very partisan guy, and we don't want to have other states like Nevada, where you have the head of the Democratic clubhouse as your governor. We don't want to be in a position where he's allowed to every day watch ballots come in. Gee, if we could only find 10,000 more ballots, because we're doing great in Nevada, we're doing great in Arizona, We're doing great all over. But if you take Nevada or Pennsylvania, and everyone knows what happens in Philadelphia, you don't have to say it, but I've read about it for years, and I don't think it's fair that we have to wait a long period of time after the election. If people wanted to get their ballots in, they should have gotten their ballots in long before that, a long time.
Okay, so as you all know, if you're watching this, they did. So they did two things to set up the whiny rant that you just saw. One, they decimated the post office as much as possible to make it so that the mail takes a long time to get there. So even if you mail your thing a week before, you can't guarantee that it's actually going to make it there day of. And the second is they, on the state level, the Republican Party tried to make it impossible for these states to count the votes before day of in as many states as possible. So they made it so that the ballots would show up late. They made it so that the counting would start late, and now they're complaining that the votes are coming in late and that the count is going to start late. I love it when a plan comes together sort of situation with the Republicans there. Anyway, Francesca, what did you think? He's just saying he's going to try to stop those votes from being counted in Pennsylvania. Perfectly valid votes from being counted.
I mean, he's so gauche about stealing elections. Like, Republicans are obviously used to stealing elections, but he's just saying it outright. And it's just honestly very tacky and very on brand, because that is how Republicans win. They can't actually win, so they suppress the vote, they take away voting rights, and now they just openly try and steal it. And that is why he is lawyering up. Of course, the most litigious president we've ever had is lawyering up, and he is a mob boss now, putting the squeeze on all Republican governors. And look, man, I want 20 years of my life back ever since Gore, in air quotes, lost the election, ever since SCOTUS threw the election to George W. Bush 2.5 wars and change wars later, trillions of dollars of debt later, and we've got a fascist on our hands. So no, if you think that the American people are going to let this descend into some Brooks Brothers riot, Trump truck riot, no. Roger Stone is not going to get one over on us this time, okay? And so, like, it's just going to be a no from me. It's going to be a no from the American people. And it's just incredible, though, that, like, it is so obvious. Look, I don't even know, John, if he's going to be up in the poll. I don't know if he's going to be up at all, at anywhere. They're going to be like, well, for about 15 minutes in Miami-Dade County, we were up. Ergo, I win. It's like, that's how granular they might have to get to claim any kind of victory. But we're going to see lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit in state after state after state. So, like, tuck in.
Yeah, and we're going to have to see what the Supreme Court does. We're going to see what we have to do based on what the Supreme Court does. Do we have to initiate the purge? I don't know. Stay tuned. Again, non-climbable fences. You say that. Anyway, but in terms of granularity, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because, like, what he's saying there is, because he's being asked about Pennsylvania generally, is we can't let those late ballots be counted. Only ballots counted on Election Day count. But remember, I've been trying to prep everyone that the idea that there's going to be the red mirage, that's the day of count, that will then have a blue shift as a result of all the votes being counted, that is true in a number of states. But it's not true in some states. Some states are going to announce the pre-counted early ballot that in theory could result in a blue mirage and a red shift. And I have a feeling they're going to be able to have the sudden mental dexterity to, in some states, ban the counting of votes after Election Day. And then in other states like Texas say, well, no, we got to get all the votes counted. We got to wait until the last minute. Get ready for that. The red hat heads are going to be spinning around to follow the legal argument for that. But it's going to happen. Will it succeed? I don't know. It's looking really good for Joe Biden. They've got thousands of lawyers out there, but so does Joe Biden. Joe Biden says he's not going to let Trump steal this election, but he's still a Democrat, an old school one at that. And I still remember Al Gore. Just prepare yourself. prepare yourself. And there's a lot of great organizations that are getting ready for rapid response protests and, organizing and all of that. So I would clear your schedule as much as possible. I have writing group on Wednesday nights. I'm writing a fantasy novel. I've set it aside for this week. That is the sacrifice I'll make for American democracy. Everybody get ready to make such an epic sacrifice as that.
Yeah. I mean, there is the silver lining for me is Republicans effed up. It does seem like they have played it well. Just when their party thought it had to pivot to actually reach out to Black and Latino voters, they were like, nope, we're just going to go all in on white identity politics. And it's worked. I mean, look, they've got 3 Supreme Court justices that we should absolutely either impeach or expand the courts so that we can, minimize their impact. But I was just going to read off a couple stats. Like I was looking at this pollster I follow, Tom Bonier, and he says 23.9 million Americans who didn't vote in 2016 have already voted. And these are people who didn't vote in 2016. 7.8 million of these voters were voting for the first time in their lives. Texas, more people in Texas have voted already than have ever voted in any state or any election other than California, because we're so big. So that's something like 9.6 million votes have already been cast in Texas. And just one more for you to just sort of lighten the mood. Mm-hmm. More Latino and Asian voters have already cast a ballot in Georgia than did in the entirety of the 2016 election. So there is record turnout from young people, from Asian Americans, from Latinos. It is huge. So take heart that they're going to try and steal this, but there are more of us than there are of them. And that history and the long arc of it is absolutely on our side.
Yeah, I hope so. And, I saw in Pennsylvania, at least as of whenever that number came out, like a day or two ago, it was that there was more than 1 million more Democratic mail-in ballots than Republican Party ID'd mail-in ballots. So think about how much they want to not count any of those.
Yes.
1 million votes that are going to go heavy for Biden flooding in. They don't want that at all. And so how would they stop that? Well, state Supreme Court's a great place to start, but inevitably it might be the Supreme Court. And Donald Trump is being very clear about that, as you'll see.
If we win on Tuesday, or thank you very much, Supreme Court, shortly thereafter, if we win.
Damn.
He's just saying it. We're gonna do a coup. He's just saying it.
But it's so funny because we've seen this Trump strategy with the Supreme Court time and time again. With I think it was the asylum. I'm not going to remember exactly, but there have been multiple suits that have been brought to the Supreme Court, cases that have been brought by the Trump administration. And the Supreme Court's basically like, yeah, we would rule in your favor, but you're being so open about it, and your language isn't flowery and cagey and coded enough.
Yeah.
Ergo, no. But come back to us and have take another pass at the writing, and we might say yes. And I feel like this is the same situation. It's like, yes, he's nominated all of these corrupt Machiavellian former Bush v. Gore justices or judges, but or lawyers, whatever. But he is being so open about it that maybe they're like, oh gosh, when you ask like that, it's just kind of tacky, the gauchiness is what I'm saying.
I don't put anything past Amy Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, everybody watch it. And not just them, by the way. You have to watch at the lower levels too. Over the weekend, Texas Republicans tried to get Harris County did drive-through voting. There's 117,000 votes that they wanted to just be thrown out. Before Election Day, you're not going to count those votes. And the Texas State Supreme Court said, no, that's not going to happen. But they have another judge looking into it. And I'm looking, literally as we're doing the show, I'm refreshing to see if there are updates on that. Journalists on the court line, as that's proceeding, the press line disconnected. So they don't know exactly what's happening. But at one point, the judge had said that there was an uphill road to Republicans trying to throw those votes out, saying they had to prove that Harris County Clerk Chris Hollins had an evil motive in allowing drive-through voting, which might be tough. Not that tough to demonstrate that the people trying to have 170,000 votes that they think is going to go against them voided have an evil motive. What's the difference between voting from your car and getting out of your car and then voting? There's no difference, except that in this case, it's a slightly higher chance that they're Democrats that did it. So again, this is just one little case that hypothetically, if Texas does go for the Democrats, it's not going to be that much of a blowout. 100,000 votes could be significant. And so these are all proceeding already. We don't even have to wait until Wednesday for some of these. These court cases are proceeding right now.
You know what's interesting, John, is that when the demographic shift really takes hold in this country and there are more people of color than white Americans, which will be a wonderful day, trust me, better food, etc. Like, the shoe will be on the other foot at some point. Like, one day when Republicans are an actual minority, just not the minority they pretend to be, they'll be like, well, we need to count every ballot, you know, because we've got still some stragglers who want to vote for Tom Cotton or Tom Cotton's daughter, you know what I mean? Well, whoever, Elon Musk's robot child. And
Bucker
they'll
Carlson.
be like, yes, Tucker, don't, please don't. Can we not, John? This week is hard enough. Could you not say that?
We'll deal with that in a couple years, okay?
Why do you have to? You gotta.
I'm sorry.
I come on your show. I'm trying to be hopeful. I'm trying to offer some inspiring words, and then you say the TC.
Focus on your cat. Your cat is there.
She's right here.
Make you feel better. Let's proceed as comrades once again.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Whatever. Psh, you ruined it.
Sorry, I did. Okay, so with that, let me read just a couple quick last comments before we go into our last little mini story. It's like it's about COVID. I have to make you talk about COVID a little bit more. I apologize, but it's just insane. So, Jay Moser, thank you for your super chat. Justin Kosick says, Trump reminds me of that one kid during tag who yells, "Timeout doesn't count" every time they're about to get tagged. Yeah. Some of those kids never really grow up, honestly. Preston Keith with a big super chat saying, my Trump supporter aunt posted today, they boarded up the Disney store in NYC where I live. So glad I don't live there. I don't think anyone who lives in Oklahoma gets to point fingers at anyone else for boarding up windows. And then there's a few tornado emojis. Well, different reasons, but I get what you're saying, Preston. Thank you. Poor Disney store. Antifa's coming for those stuffed animals. Okay. Francisca Schreiber says, just realize fully that this election literally decides the future of our planet. We depend on the USA in fighting climate change. 4 more years of denial will kill the whole humankind, but no pressure. Greets from EU. Thank you, Francisca. Yeah, the whole world's going to be watching, and we're about to really, I think, embarrass ourselves in terms of the process. Maybe the outcome will be good. Remains to be seen, but
yeah, I just got a note from someone from Greece, and they were like, "Hey, from Greece, you're effed." I was like, "Thanks, buddy,
Yep.
Thanks, buddy."
Yep.
Greece, right? Greece, like massive economic, collapse. Greece.
Yeah. Italy's going to teach us about how to run elections in government soon. No, we're pretty embarrassed. Okay, Franklin Sharp Slicer says, the man who thinks he will prevail just may find the taste of fail. Happy pre to you and me, John and Fran, a smile I doth see. Police guys shouldn't beat on peace guys. Franklin, thank you for that. And Jadon Dester says, waiting for a COVID test from overburdened labs in Michigan. Can't work or pay bills. Just one of millions of lives being destroyed by this incompetent administration. Thanks for keeping me sane, guys. Thank you, Jadon. And by the way, let me promote. I say this just for Francesca's sake. The episode of John Oliver's show last night was really good. They did 2 things. They did a breakdown on William Barr and what effect he's had as AG. That was great. But they also did sort of like a roundup of the whole pandemic thing from the point of view of the Trump administration, their failures, the highlights and lowlights of what Trump has said. I think really important to watch that. We all experienced it, but I don't know about you. This pandemic has been such a whirlwind that I can't remember so much of what happened because so much happened literally every day. But anyway, watch that episode of John Oliver's show. Big recommendation from me. Okay, Francesca, you ready for just a little bit more?
Yes.
Okay, let's do this thing. At a Trump rally in Florida over the weekend, they transitioned from their normal chorus of locking up whoever Donald Trump doesn't like to wanting to fire people, including literally, and I'm being honest here, the only person whose approval rating has gone up after serving in the Trump administration, Dr. Fauci. Take a look.
Don't tell anybody, but let me wait till a little bit after the election.
Okay, so people did find out because it was being filmed. But anyway, yeah, so they want Fauci to be fired. So they do want the government to do something when it comes to the pandemic. They want the one guy who seems to take it seriously to be fired. And Trump, true alpha, says, well, I can't do it until after the election, but then I'll fire this guy who doesn't want you to die from COVID. That's cool. Francesca?
You know, John, I did a whole episode for my news comedy show, Newsbroke, on secession. And when I see that video, I'm like, you know what? Maybe California should be its own country. Let's just break off, okay? Build the wall between us and the rest of the country. We'll accept, obviously, asylum seekers from Michigan or wherever if you're trying to get away from these super spreaders. But like, it's mob rule. This is clan-like behavior. They want to fire the only guy who's been honest with the American people, a scientist, a doctor. Like, why? You see the spike, and now everyone knows someone who's gotten COVID or died. And I'm just like, you know what? Have Oklahoma. You know what I mean? Just take that. Like, can we sacrifice Florida? You know, it's going underwater soon anyway. No disrespect to Floridians in the chat and watching, but like, you know what I mean? Like, which part of America can just break off and be theirs? You know, just a petri dish, a COVID, mask-free utopia.
They'd love that. Yeah. Fauci. They want him fired, like the guy who he doesn't want them to die.
He's trying to protect us.
There is nothing. I mean, I can say a lot, but it's not going to accomplish anything more than just saying death cult's gonna death cult. Death cults don't want the guy who says they shouldn't die for their leader. And so, yeah, I guess he's gonna fire him. Maybe. You never know. You never know what he says offhand, but he certainly doesn't like Fauci. I'm personally shocked that Fauci has stuck around as long as he has. Later at the rally, Trump claimed that Fauci is a nice guy, but he's been wrong a lot. Yeah, Fauci is the one who's been wrong a lot. By the way, it would be a little bit difficult, at least, to do that. Dr. Fauci is a longtime director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, is a civil servant. It would be extremely difficult for the president to have him removed. Under federal law, the president does not have direct authority to fire Dr. Fauci. He could try to get one of his political appointees to do so, but Fauci would be able to appeal. Although bear in mind that in the last week, Trump signed an executive order that is going to have the effect of replacing many of these civil servants with political appointees that can be fired at will, rather than based on their actual job performance. I don't know if that's about Fauci or just in general. They like the idea that all of these federal bureaucracies, they find to be sort of like obstacles to their agenda anyway. Why not just wipe them out and replace them with political appointees? But to see that chant against Fauci in Florida, where almost 17,000 people have died from COVID in Florida alone, including a relative of mine, the only thing they want from Trump on the pandemic is to get rid of the guy who's trying to get him to take it seriously.
I mean, it's a pathology. It's a mania at this point. It is a cult. And I mean, this is what the entire Republican Party has done. And by association a little bit, the Democratic Party, right? I mean, the Democratic Party and helping to create the conditions for Donald Trump in conjunction with Republicans, right? But just like, these are folks who want easy answers. They want conspiracy theories. They don't want the thing right in front of their face. They don't want a mask right in front of their face. And wow, how America has let them down, almost on just an ideological level, almost on a like definitely on an educational level, but also on a like, is there no framework for these folks to actually help to understand science, what's going on in the world? Like it's like, where did we go wrong? I feel like I'm their mom. Like, oh my God, what did we do? Did we spoil them? Yeah. Maybe we did.
So much is just, and I think everybody watching can probably agree with this, so much about this year has just been so deeply embarrassing, so deeply distressing on a level that I think we're going to take years as individuals to really work through how failed America is as a political experiment, how much American society has failed its people in creating this group of people that refuse to think critically for even a second, that just want to run to something that's going to make them feel comfortable and make them feel like they don't have to change or evolve in any way. It's been the worst year. It just has been the worst year. But anyway, Francesca, thank you for joining us for this last day in the last days of man, perhaps. You're going to be joining me for the election tomorrow, which I'm very excited for. You're going to be joining us in our third hour. So everybody stay tuned for that. Francesca, in advance of that, I know you're working on other shows, other projects. Where can people see some of your last thoughts before this election?
Listen to and watch the Bitchuation Room podcast. It's also live on YouTube at Franny Fio and on Twitch. Watch Newsbroke. We're going to be doing a live on Wednesday, the day after the election, also with John. John's going to make an appearance.
Woo!
Woo! And Jamal Bowman and Anthony Atamanik, who plays Donald Trump on the Comedy Central show, The President Show. So so looking forward to this next 48 hours with you and with everyone watching. And we need each other right now.
We do. Thank you. Is there any chance, by the way, that we could see the cat before you go? Of course. We haven't had a pet in a while, and I think we could all use some adorable animal as we launch into what's going to be one of the longest days in history. Oh my God. Such an adorable kitty.
Here, let's hold her closer.
Oh my God. Yes, Lion King, that cat.
Mm-hmm.
That is She looked terrified there at the end. She's like,
she's happy.
Very cute, though.
We'll be okay, right, Ramona? Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you, Francesca. Have a good one.
John.
Get at least 2 hours of sleep tonight. Promise me that.
Oh, I'm taking a nap right now.
Okay.
With this one.
Later. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, everybody, let's read a few of your comments before we close things out. By the way, I saw a comment on Twitch from Lean Marie who says, we will need a whole... Oh, wait, no, that's not the one. Where is it? Just look how long Germany has lived with its stigma. It could take decades. Exactly. Not quite as terrible in terms of the personal accounting each individual will have to do, but yeah, I think it's going to take a very long time. Like, you're going to have some awful uncle who wears his MAGA hat for the next 15 years. You're still going to have to see those. Eventually, they'll be worn exclusively ironically, but we are a long way off from that. Now, let's read a few more comments. Angus O'Sonnell really getting into the theme of the show with witness me as the super chat. Angus, consider yourself witnessed. You're a very shiny super chat there. Alex Ceresi says, I got my Dragon Squad long sleeve. Now I have Johnny Pie keeping me warm at night. Thank you. I didn't see the end of that super chat before I started reading it. Anyway, thank you. Mike Fiore says, got my Dragon Squad shirt in order. Going through a divorce and dealing with this election has been brutal, but we press on. Thank you, Dragon Papa and Franny, for keeping me sane through all this. Thank you, Mike. Again, a lot of people going through a really hard year, but we're trying to help in whatever way we can. It's small, but we do want to help. Thank you for that. Wayne Sugihara says, on the lighter side, did you see the tweet that had that had Tommy Lauren among other Trumpers thanking Satan for his support of Trump? No, I did not see that, but that sounds fun. If Q tells them to support Satan, they will begin to worship him. Let's see. The Nagrif says, I read earlier today that a Biden-Harris rally here in Georgia was canceled due to militia presence. Really hoping we flip blue this year. I did see that. There was reporting about that, about the threat of increased militia activity. Okay. Let's see. Angry Little Nobody says, we will never be free of Trump. He'll be tweeting and getting interviews. When he dies, the right will scramble to grab the mantle of the new Trump. P.S. Got my Dragon Squad shirt today. Well, that's good news. Look, I agree. He's not going away immediately. I hope that once he has, once he doesn't have power, he'll have less draw. But he was very popular during the 2016 election. He'll still be around for a while. But remember, he's an old dude. And now he's going to be dealing with COVID for the rest of his life. His energy level might start to dip once he's no longer in the spotlight. Injun Fair says, love the Off the Rails show. What do you mean? Just what I needed to lift my spirit. Good luck to us all. The whole damn world. Thank you, Injun Fair. I appreciate that. Bryce Ratliff says, I think that the insane support of Trump at his rallies shows a severe lack of self-esteem and maturity from people. There's something obsessive and wrong about risking your life for a stranger. I agree. I like being a part of a movement as much as the next guy. Again, don't want Bernie Sanders to choke me out. I'm just not. That's not the sort of person I am. I don't know. Jank, I'm not going to read the rest of that message or the name, but I'll read the message. Let's see. Thank you for the super chat. Hi, John and Franny. Enjoyed watching TDR in the UK to keep sane in 2020. I wonder if more than one family member died from COVID at Trump rally. Look, that's the thing. And thank you for the super chat. Is that, yes, the people that go there hypothetically can get COVID and can die, but they can also spread it to other people who didn't even attend those things. That's what's so insidious about this. And so insidious about being willing to go knowing that you're potentially going to spread it to one of your loved ones, whether family or friends. And so many people, thousands of people every day are making that decision, and it's sickening. Francisca Schreiber says, just realized fully that this election... Oh, we did read that one. Thank you again, Francisca, for your super chat. Matt Barrow says, greetings from the UK. We share your pain, especially as anything our politicians want to get away with can be explained away with an airy, well, it's not as bad as Trump. Good luck. We're all going to need it. Yes. By the way, you know how they always look back 3 years after the last bad president and say, do you miss me now? Or we start to whitewash their record and things like that. Do not allow them to do that when it comes to Trump. We will remember. Manuel says, hello from Europe. Go Dragons. Thank you, Manuel. I appreciate that. Agent Smith says, so there's an election special tomorrow. Oh boy, is there. There's going to be an election special all day, starting off with the normally scheduled damage report, in which Anna Kasparian will be joining me, so you know that's going to be fun. The second hour of the damage report will have Cenk Uygur, as well as a special guest, a congressional candidate, soon-to-be congresswoman, who is awesome, an awesome progressive, is going to be joining us. I can't wait for that. And then in the third hour, effectively, of the damage report, Francesca and Ben Dixon will be joining me. So we're going to be starting off the day right. Don't worry about that. Let's see. Galfar on Twitch said, AMC is doing a Godfather marathon all day tomorrow. Think they're trying to tell us something about the election? That's funny. Bart left a comment saying, John, if you haven't seen any of the Godfather movies, we need to talk. Come on, seriously, dude, if you have not seen any of them. But if you have, there's still hope for you. I haven't really. I think I've watched part of one of them, I guess, but I haven't really watched them. It just feels like I missed the boat on that. I know that technically I could watch them, but I'm watching other stuff, man. I watched Get Out again on Friday. I don't have time for these classics of modern American cinema. Anyway, Why Am I Sticky says, that's the most accurate Pirro impression I've seen. Yeah, I didn't know that Francesca had such a good Pirro. That is good. Again, though, Cecily Strong has a really good Janine Pirro. I would need to see a Pirro off between them. Maybe we can set that up someday. Okay. Lori the Netowist says, Dragon Squad eats boogaloos and proud baby boys for breakfast. That's what it does. That's what it was set up to do, honestly. Void Queen says, Franny, the next step is obviously a Herman Cain hologram. Oh, geez. I'm not reading that. You guys are crazy in the chat sometimes. Falcon Steve says, I was 11 when Bush stole the presidency. It was crushing then. I watched Fahrenheit 9/11 and almost cried. Yeah, I think for a lot of people watching the show, a lot of people who've gotten involved in American politics over the last few years, since 2016, you don't necessarily know what 2000 was like. And honestly, even for me, like I was a teenager at that point. I wasn't really into American politics, but I know what happened. This could end up being so much dirtier, so much more subversive and anti-democratic even than 2000. And the Republican Party is going to be perfectly fine with that because, again, the process doesn't matter. The road doesn't matter. The destination is power, and they wants it. They wants it, and they're going to get it if they can. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for watching the show. Those of you who've been tuning in to our pre-shows live on YouTube, I appreciate that as well. I might be doing a stream later on today, depending on late breaking news in advance of the election, but we'll see. Turn on your notifications if you haven't already so you can get those. But anyway, you are not going to want to miss the Young Turks today. Anna and Cenk with their last comments before the day of voting begins, so tune into that a little bit later on. And thank you, everybody. I will see you early tomorrow. I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.